The export rate, solar buyback, all of these things are essentially the same thing when it comes to talking to a solar energy consultant or your neighbors. And the reason I say that is because this term has changed so much over the last 5 to 6, 7 years um, that it's super important that you understand it. So, what is the solar export rate? It's the best way to put it. It's basically how much does the power company pay you for anything you overproduce off of your rooftop. It doesn't have to be like because you have a 150% system. It could be because you literally went to Walmart and you just weren't home using any of your solar. So what happens to that electricity? Well, it goes back into the grid like we explained in Module 1, but we need to talk about how much does that actually net you? How much does that actually make you? And how do you find it? So let's just simply pull up the screen here, and we'll see what we can kind of come up with. Let me just get this plugged in. Whoa. So this is essentially the website for APS. So you can just simply, just aps.com it if you'd like to. But what we want to do is go a little bit deeper than that. So we can see that the APS rate application was filed in 2022. You can see all the public notices, things like that, blah, blah, blah. Very cool stuff. So the easiest way to find this is actually just go back to Google and just say APS RCP rate. I don't know why everything's capital lock. Oh, it's caps lock's on. You can see rate, rider, RCP, partial requirements, services. And we'll click on that. And you can see the RCP. Everyone always asks, but it stands for Resource Comparison Proxy. Export rate. RCP export rate. APS, they do a lot of big swaps on this. So to give you kind of a disclaimer here, APS and the Corporations Commission back in 2017 made an agreement that essentially the RCP rate will be applicable for 10 years from the time of interconnection. So that means you're grandfathered into whatever rate you're in for 10 years once your interconnection agreement's approved by APS. And then you have 270 days to complete it after your application's approved. But basically they talk about every year it goes down pretty much September 1st, 10%. This one may or may not have been updated because tomorrow is the new RCP rate. And it's not updated just yet, but that's okay. That's okay. So basically you can see here that in 2017 it started off at 12.9 cents. 2018 it went down to 11.6 cents. 2019 it went down to 10.45 cents, and it stayed that way through the COVID times. That's what they'll be saying in the textbooks, the COVID times. Back in 2021, though, it started back up and went down to 9.4 cents. And 2022 to 2023, it's down to 8.4 cents. So this is going to extend one more time soon, and that should be about 7.56 cents kilowatt hours, what they'll be buying that back from you. And this is APS again. The Corporations Commission, another side note, they voted 4-1 to keep this going, which sounds like a bad thing on paper, but it's actually really good because this is the agreement that we have. This is the best we could do to save solar in Arizona for now. But the commissioner, one of them, what is his name, Nick Myers or whatever the heck, he wanted a 37% random drop all of a sudden. So he wanted September 1st to drop that down to essentially 5 cents a kilowatt hour all of a sudden. And another side note is he voted on his portion. One of his big running stances is we got to stop the utility companies from changing the game or changing the rules mid-game. And then he wants to change the rules mid-game. Long and the short of it, though, and we'll update this video as that happens, but he wants in October of 2023 to get 20% now drop instead of 10%. So he's going to keep trying, and hopefully he's going to keep failing. But this is the RCP, or the solar export rate for APS. You can always just search for this, have a look at it. You can see that if you switch from a grandfathered legacy solar rate, you will lose whatever that is, and you will get the new retail rate. So do not add solar to your house. Don't let a solar company come to you and be like, hey, you need to you need to come by and take a look and let us help you go solar. Oh, you're not saving enough. Oh, you have a $20 bill left over. You have a $30, $40 bill left over. Let's add more solar to your home. That's not the answer, because you'll lose net metering. And I'm a green realtor. So side note, if you're looking to, you already have solar on your home, you're like, hey man, like I want to sell my house, QR code somewhere on the screen. But if you have 2017, and we're talking August and before, solar net energy metering, and we'll explain what that is in a second. You have the best of the best when it comes to solar. So if someone, and this is what I love too, is if I'm looking at solar homes and I'm finding buyers for my green sellers, as I would call them, and I see they went solar before that deadline, before RCP happened and net metering was still a thing, or NEM, net energy metering. I was telling them, like, whoa, you have the gold mine here. People are going to come in and be like, well, you're telling me that I'm coming into a home with solar installed. Doesn't even have to be 100%, but you're telling me that has a credit for credit balance. So what that means is, in this case, with I'll get that off my screen. With the RCP rate with APS, that goes down 12.9, 11.6, blah, 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 and then you lock in for 10 years, right? So that's an actual dollar amount. So the idea there is the pro is that can buy down your taxes and fees and actually get you a negative bill. But at what we're at today, you're not going to see a ginormous negative bill like a lot of the neighbors are spreading around, like a lot of the solar companies are showing you at the door. And the reason for that is because you can't overproduce that much anymore to make that net bill happen. Basically, what's happening is the buyback is worth so much less than what your solar's worth, unless you pay cash, because that's right around like the 4-5 cent range versus the 12-13 cent range that these leases and loans cost. But basically, what ends up happening is you have a credit for credit. So if you overproduce 500 kilowatt hours, you have to use 501 kilowatt hours from the grid before you're purchasing that additional extra kilowatt hour. So it's like credit for credit. It doesn't matter if APS, in this case, we're selling power we're selling, like to the customer, 4 cents or 29 cents or $1.35 a kilowatt hour. Your credit was worth $1.35, 40 cents, 20 cents, whatever it is. With the new rate now, it's 7.6 cents a kilowatt hour. So you can see that if you're buying a lot of on-peak 29, 30 cent power and you're only selling it back at 7 cents, there's a huge loss there, right? So say like you're just really, really buying a lot of you're overproducing all afternoon. But then when that sun comes up and you're on that peak hour at 4 to 7, in APS's case for most customers, you're buying power at triple rates than what your solar is being produced. So you have to be super, super cautious when doing that. And that's one of the reasons why people are like, oh, this buyback, this deadline, it's just a sales tactic. It's math, and it's unfortunate because now we're at the point where batteries are going to start making more sense, and we're going to be adding some more battery modules to this course here. But I just wanted to kind of cover that and let you know that if you do have a net energy metering system, grandfathered, standard rate, solar, ERP6 or something like that, don't add more solar. Don't let some solar company tell you to add more solar. Next, let's take a look at SRP. They're a little bit more complicated and a little bit harder to find. But if you just, again, search SRP, solar export rate, as I already did there apparently, we'll click on the first one. We'll actually click on both of them because I don't know which way to go. Like I said, it gets confusing. So SRP has a few different solar plans. Let's first go through them. So they have demand-based plans, customer generation plan, and average demand plan are the two that they have. And then they have the export plans, which is the time of use export plan, and the electric vehicle export plan. And then this helps you compare the four of them. So with customer generation, it's a demand-based pricing. So basically demand, again, is what is that stress that I'm putting on the grid? How much is that boom that I'm putting up on the grid? For example, with an inefficient air condition, pretty average one, 3-4 kilowatts of demand, you'll take their demand price. In SRP, they're tiered. You'll take their demand price and essentially multiply it by the amount of kilowatts you're using. So if you're using 4 kilowatts and it's a $10 demand charge, it's $40, boom, just for using your power at the wrong time of the day. So we can go through there. So demand-based pricing, these two, the customer generation plan, which I believe is the E27, and then the average demand plan, which I think is the E13 plan, but they've changed it so much that I'm not even sure anymore. The names of it. So they both have net metering, so to speak. So this is essentially credit for credit on these two demand plans. However, in the export, the time of use export, and the solar vehicle export, that's an export rate. So essentially, this would be the RCP example with APS, and this would be the old net metering plan with APS. But we have to see a little bit further down because we do want the specifics on this. I want to be right because this gets confusing. And like I said, the word net metering has been thrown around so much that it's kind of hard to tell what's what anymore. But you can see this will talk about their winter rates. So this is their on-peak, off-peak for the winter rates, and it talks to November through April. So definitely compare these plans with SRP before making the switch to solar. And you can see that in the electric vehicle one, there's a super off-peak plan, which is super cool. But compare these off, you can see that it might look more attractive in the customer and average demand plan with these on-peak being 4 cents and the off-peak being, 5 cents, and the on-peak being on-peak 5, off-peak 4. You can see that it's a little bit higher, almost double in this case. Actually, more than double for the on-peak. And so you might be like, well, I'm going for this one. But keep in mind that the demand-based pricing is where you're going to really get slammed if you're not careful. And here's why. So that's the winter rates, always cheap anyway. But the on-peak rates in the summer, they stay relatively the same for these two plans. So again, they're looking attractive. But, we get to this point where it's like, oh, shit. What's happening? Why is my on-peak 21 cents now? Why is my off-peak 8 cents now? And so we take a look here with the summer peak rates. Again, 24 cents, 6 cents. And this is July through August. So this is like the worst month to be. So in September, we get a little bit of a break. Our rates do go down a little bit. But let's take a look at the demand plan, right? And they don't really explain it here. So we do want to figure it out. It says net metering though, so let's just double check some stuff here. Let's make sure that we're good as gravy. And how do we do that? So let's go to customer generation and average demand. So the customer generation we'll talk. We already talked about the numbers of the on and off peak, but I want to find the proof in the pudding that talks about net energy metering. It talks about the monthly service charge, so it's going to be between $32 to $45 depending on stuff. Talks about the time. Again, SRP is more complicated. They have a very strange, from 5 to 9 a.m. is on peak, and from 5 to 9 p.m. is off peak, or what? On peak is 5 to 9, 5 to 9. November through April, 2 to 8, mid-October, all other times. Very strange. But let's keep going because I want to. This might help too. Like I said, SRP are very complicated. You have to go to a page to a page to a page to figure things out. These are all the things you want to stagger around. So don't use your pool pump in your oven at the same time. Don't use your washer in your oven at the same time. Don't use your water heater in your washer at the same time. Don't use your pool pump and your water heater at the same time. These things all stack up demand, like expressed. It's that what is it called? That stress you're putting up on the grid is what you're going to be really charged for. And I have a hard time finding it. Like I said, you got to dig deep. But this is what you're going to go through whenever you're searching for this on your own. So we're in the same boat. All right, so this is the E15 customer generation average demand plan. So again, the customer generation demand plan. So this one right here. We finally found one of the sheets, so let's just put that over here. blah, 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 da, 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 talks about the times, metering, cancel the agreement anytime, blah, blah, blah. So this talks about billing service is $17, metering is $2, $12. But if you have a bigger system, not solar, but like amp on the side of your house, you're using a lot more power from the grid, those rates go up a little bit. Well, this one is, I guess, a solar, because distribution facilities is solar. Talks about this. So per kilowatt charges, basically $19.29 per kilowatt on peak. So the on peak time, that's the stress you're putting up on the grid. And again, this is the customer generation demand plan. Average demand, right? Average. Okay, I'm so sorry. It was the second one. This is the one we're looking at. So the 5.4, the 4.6, 0.46, and then the what's the big difference between these ones? Oh, this one's just averaged out. You'll see in a second. Anyway, back to this. Yada yada. So in the summer peak times, $19. In the summer $19. Summer peak, $21 a kilowatt. Wintertime, $8 a kilowatt. And it just breaks down all this fun stuff. But we still haven't found the part about net energy metering. The kilowatt hours delivered to SRP shall be subtracted from the kilowatt hours delivered from SRP. So that is a true net metering, one-to-one situation. But the kicker is kilowatt hours to kilowatt hours. Since this is not a dollar value, think of it like Chuck E. Cheese tokens. I don't know if I explained that in a different video, but it's an analogy that I use. These are only worth the games that you want to play. So if the game costs you kilowatt hours or Chuck E. Cheese tokens, and you're essentially overproducing Chuck E. Cheese tokens, you can only use them for the game. You cannot use them against this $32 service charge. You cannot use it against this $19 a kilowatt charge, because this is money. So that's why when we go back to these plans, these ones are export rate. Like I explained with the APS example, this is worth dollars, not tokens. So this one can go against your actual bill. This one goes against usage, but not demand. So that's where it gets a little confusing. Keep that in mind. I hope the Chuck E. Cheese token thing helps. But that's that. So it is true net metering, says there in G. But it's net metering true to the bucket. And what I mean by bucket is, for example, if you overproduce on peak, then you're essentially giving back solar on peak. If you're using off peak, or you're producing off peak time, you're giving back off peak. So basically, if you overproduce 100 of these, you got what, 50 cents essentially worth of power, or we'll say 100 kilowatt hours on peak. You can never use those 100 kilowatt hours on peak for your off-peak energy, and vice versa. Say because there's way more off-peak hours, you could not use 1 million off-peak credits for any of your on-peak credits. So if you're only producing off-peak, and then when the sun hits 2 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever, and you start to use your power, none of these kilowatt hours will transfer to these kilowatt hours. So the offset won't be there. So you have two different buckets. You're either overproducing on peak or you're overproducing off peak. With true net metering, one-to-one credits, you're either selling it at this point for 5.04 cents or off peak at 4.64 cents. But those times can never touch. So keep that in mind. And that's true net metering on a demand-based plan. That's why I was saying with the ERP standard plan, ERP6 or whatever, APS, that's just all day, everyday energy, kilowatt hour, kilowatt hour, kilowatt hour. So if you have those type of homes, you're in a super awesome spot. And that's why when people are like, well, going solar doesn't make sense back in 2016, even it was a scam. Like, not anymore. I'm so sorry to say, but that was the best time solar was awesome. Okay, so we got the average demand plan. Sorry, I got a piece of ice in there. I really want to find time of use export sheet. So we learned if we can find the sheet, then we're in good hands. I'm going to put these sheets up on the page as well. So let me actually download these. So yeah, E13. Boop. And E15. Boop. But we still haven't found the E27. Let's get this over here. All right, so the E13, what we're looking at is the customer generation, time of use export. So what that is the customer generation, time of use export. So the time of use export has an actual dollar amount to it. So let's take a look at that one. So all the same characteristics, gives you your hours. It's a little bit different. There's no 2 to 8 apparently there. Holidays are off. Blah-de-da, everybody. Usage charges are the same. Those are things that get a little crazy. So it breaks down why the kilowatt hours are higher and lower and everything in between. Goes. And here we go. So everything delivered to SRP is not a credit for credit. It's 2.81 pennies. Now let's break that down. Even on your saddest, coldest winter day where power's the cheapest, you're buying it at 7.85 cents a kilowatt hour. With this situation, you were selling it at 2 cents. That math is sad. So what do you want to do with this? You want to get a baby system, in my opinion. You do not want to maximize and overproduce your system on an SRP plan that is customer generation, time of use export. Yep. And so that breaks that down. So just keep that in mind, that a huge system is going to essentially just be giving power away at this point. And again, I'll download this. So we got the customer generation plan. I'm trying to keep track of this. So we have this one, and we have this one. The electric vehicle, we're not going to talk too much about it, just because not a lot of people get on that. You typically don't do this with solar anyway. I guess you do. Customer generation, though. Let's find this one, though. Customer generation. And there's got to be a way to find it. We're almost done here, people. But this is important stuff, so your patience is definitely going to be worth it in the end. So how do we find you? Customer generation. Net metering. Should have done that. Was it in front of my face the whole time? Oh, it's right here. Cool. We got 1, 2, 3. And you know what? Let's do it. Let's find the vehicle one. Let's go through it, guys, together. Because we're all here to learn. This is a community, is what I'm building here. A community of people who just want to understand what the freak they are buying. Perfect. We have all of our ducks in a row. Let's put them in order because I'm a highly easily confused guy. Customer generation, customer generation. The EV plan was last. Average, time of use. Perfection. Actually, where'd my thing go? You guys beat me up. Oh, it's right here. Boop. Okay, now we're in order, guys. Oh my, what am I? I'm not even on the right page. Okay, customer generation, average, time of use. Customer generation, average, time of use, EV. Perfect. All right, now we're back on the customer generation. So this is the E27 plan. So we're looking at this one. It's demand-based. It's net metering. Great. So we go back down and make sure we see that it says all kilowatts delivered to the grid are net metering. But again, that net metering is only worth what you give it. And we're going to get to the complications. This one's why I saved it essentially for last. The vehicle one is different. But we look here, we can see the on peak is 5 cents in the winter or the summer. Off peak is 4 cents. This is the cheapest plan in the whole wide world. So it's super attractive. It never gets up anywhere. Even in the summer peak, it's at 6 cents, 7 cents a kilowatt hour. Still super cheap. But the problemo, people, the problemo is this. And this is where things get real complicado. So you have the blah, blah, blah plans, all this stuff. It just tells you what it's worth in the end. So your first 3 kilowatts of demand are $7.89 each. If I'm reading that right, each. We want to make sure. Metering will be such that kilowatts and kilowatt hours can be related to time of use. Okay. We want to double check. We want to know. Because words are words, and they're very important in this case. Per meter, okay. Per kilowatt, okay. Per kilowatt, so that means per kilowatt. So we go down. Per kilowatt, so we go down. So now we see that every 3 kilowatts of where did it go? Oh, here we go. Per kilowatt on peak. So 3. So basically, if your AC fires up and you're at the situation where you're like, all right, cool, what am I looking at here? $7.89. I want to be exact with you guys. So just for your AC to turn on at the wrong time of the day, not your usage, but like just boom, that electricity you're hitting the grid with, that'd be $23.67 just to turn on your AC at that time. That's only if you have under 3 kilowatts. What they do is they look at your total month and they're like, all right, low, low, low. Oh, this hour was super high. Low, low, low kilowatts. Like, oh, well, this was the highest one. So we're going to build a whole month at that highest kilowatt. So say you're like 3 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, 9, 3 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt. That 9 is going to be built out through the whole month. So it'd be that 9 multiplied by whatever that rate would be. So the first 3 would be 7.89, and then you got to add. So for the next 7, it's going to be $14.37 each kilowatt hour. So we got that 23 whatever charge, plus say you did 1 more kilowatt hour, add $14.37 to that. So you did 2 more kilowatt hours, you'd add 28 and not 74, right? Dollars to that 23, right? So you can see how fast it adds up. And after that 7th kilowatt, everything after that's $27.28 per kilowatt. So they're saying, hey man, stop hurting the grid. So this plan really teaches you how to be more obedient with your power. And again, SRP is one of the more complicated. And APS, we're leaning, we're getting towards this. This is where things are going to start making some sense. Because if we actually go back to the RCP rate on this just explains what the buyback is. But if we go to, APS rate plans, you're at a point where you're going to want to probably start going towards these demand-based plans just because you really want to fight that on-peak, off-peak. You want to get as close to this as you can with that net metering, because again, we remind you that with like the time you use export, you're getting 2 cents from SRP. Well, we're still getting 7.6 cents for a year unless Mr. Ding Dong and the Corporations Commission gets what he wants come October. But with this plan, APS's demand charge, you apparently accidentally click on something and everything goes to poopy. And again, I'm going to put all this stuff up on the portal here so you guys have it. But for some reason, they don't want to show it to me. Do the details. We're not going to spend too much more time on this. I know that we're moving into a lot of time here, and these are supposed to be short, bite-sized courses. Here we go. The tariff sheet is what they call it. Yada, yada, yada. You can see that the kilowatt charge is right here. So did they add it up? Normally they add it up. This is like broken down. Where's the bundled? Here we go, bundled. So their cost per kilowatt is $16.87.5, and the winner's $11.84. So it does seem high. There's the kilowatt hours. Again, this is the power you're using, and this is the power you've stressed onto the grid. Kilowatt versus kilowatt hour. But you see it's 1687. So at first you're like, oh man, that's actually a lot higher than SRP's, man. That's pretty crazy. But you can see how fast it adds up. So where do you really want to be when it comes time to do this? I don't know. Do the math. But then again, you have SRP versus APS, so these two don't ever touch. Anyway, let's keep going. So hope that really explains kind of the kilowatt charge, the export rate, I guess, payment, and net energy metering. So lastly, let's touch on the EV E14 plan. I'm not 100% familiar with this because this is just one of the things that just doesn't seem attractive to people, but let's find out why. So we got the time of uses, we got the normal, whatever, per kilowatt charge on peak, 21 cents a kilowatt hour. Kilowatt hour. All right, let's go to peak. So this is not a kilowatt demand charge. Good. So again, we're selling it back at 2.81 cents a kilowatt hour. But we are getting power cheaper. Not as cheap as the E28 plan, but again, or the E27 plan. But the E27 plan again has that $3 or 3 kilowatt, 7 kilowatt, every additional kilowatt tiered structure, which could stink. Yeah, these numbers get a little high. So I'm not seeing like the huge benefit to having this. I think it's just to help you charge your car at certain times of the day. It doesn't really get you much benefit, if that makes sense. But again, let's go to a little comparison and see what's up. So you do get that super off peak, and that's where you'd want to charge your car. So that's the only reason I could see this plan making some sense. The off peak is still a little more expensive in case you accidentally slide into it. Smart, I guess. But you can see that that super off peak exists for a reason. So it's like, hey, like if you're going to charge your car, do it at the super off peak time, which in this case is from the hours of 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. So when you get home, make sure your Tesla, EV, Leaf, Subaru Solstice charger is set from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. and you will be charging your car at super cheap hours. But all right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me get all the tariff sheets here for APS lined up. So we got the 47 Dymand, which a lot of people are going to start to move over to in the new solar climate for APS. Let's put the tariff sheet for that in there. Boop. I want to make sure you guys are armed with all the information you need here. And if you guys are confused and you just, you want to get a solar quote, I mean, I totally get it. Like, do the QR code on screen, but don't feel like pressured at all. Like I said, my goal is solar education. I'm a green realtor. I'm an investor. I do a lot of other stuff. So solar's for you. That's what I do. Is if I can create this automated course where I don't have to put much more time into recording, other than recording videos for you. This really costs me nothing to do. So I just want to give you access to everything that I can to make your life a lot easier and a lot more affordable, especially as interest rates and everything else climbs. And again, I lay all this out for your buyer and your buyer agent whenever it's time to sell your house. I really make it make sense for them. So let's get the fixed energy plan, which you can't do with solar, but let's put it on there anyway. And then let's do the weekly 47. Tariff sheet, where did you go? Tariff sheet, I don't know. Tariff sheet, there you are. Boopity-doo, boop, boom. And then we got the time of use, weekday, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but let's go over it real quick. This is probably going to change in December anyway, but we'll try it out. So you got the fixed plan with APS. It's something cool to be on, but you cannot do it with solar. There's nothing about solar in this, which stinks. Because if you could, it'd be great. Because you're only buying your power at 12 cents in the second tier, which is typically where people would land. So it's 11.2, 12.2, 13.47 cents for these tiered. Boom, boom, boom. So that's per kilowatt hour. So if you find yourself like using between 600 to 1,000 a month, you'd be in this tier. Anything above that is this tier. Anything below the 600 a month is this tier. Cool. And it breaks it down here. Again, this is going to be available for you guys to have. But yeah, this is not a solar plan. Not a solar plan. No solar here. But there's the time of use plan, which a lot of people have been on. And this was still the go-to because no demand charges, which we explained pretty good, I think. But you have a 29-cent and a 10-cent. We'll round them up. 30 and 11-cent power on peak in the summers. The winter times are pretty negligible. One fraction of a penny, which stings. However, there's the delivery charge, blah, blah, blah. But you always look at the bundled stuff, man. Oh, yeah, this one's not demand-based plan. So this is what your on-peak would be. This is what your off-peak would be. We always look at the summers just because that's the worst. And then there is no grid access charge. That's good to know. 0. So I need to actually add that into my calculations. I've been telling people that there is still that 93-cent grid access charge, but it looks like they took it away. Unless they just left it over here. I like to under promise and over deliver. If I tell you there's gonna be a 93-cent charge and there's not, you're really happy. Is there not a grid access charge anymore? Good job, APS. You guys took away the dumbest charge ever. I love it. Like, why would you charge someone to use the grid with solar when you're selling their energy back at 29? So they're buying it from you at 7 cents and they're going to sell it at 30 cents? That makes no sense. That's sense. All right, cool. There's no grid access charge anymore. Neat. I'll update my calculator. That's why my customers are happy. Because, like, this guy told me there's going to be a $15 charge. Where did it go? It's not there. Never existed. It was a ghost. A myth. Yep, I don't see a grid access charge. I am going to search for it. Grid access. Oh, didn't say it. It's not in the bundled. That's okay. We'll do more research on this. But the point and the fact of the matter is, yeah, I hope that made some sense for you guys. I hope that it makes, what are we doing here? Hope that made some sense when it comes down to rate plans and comparing them. I know I went into this video only talking about RCP rates, export rates and stuff, but it feels like all of this stuff just goes together. So it made sense since we're already on the page to do that. Again, I'm going to download all of these files, these forms and stuff, and put them up on the community. We're trying to build out the Solar 101 a little bit better. We take your feedback and we love it. If there's something we're just not doing, again, this is a completely free resource, so we appreciate your patience. Some people are like, well, it needs to be. Well, the fact that it is at all a free resource that we're putting out here should be enough for you. So, thank you. You're welcome. I don't know. But awesome. Hope this made some sense for you. We're trying to update this with, as things happen. So I'll probably leave this video here, and then I'll make like an addendum, an amendment video, just because there's still so much good information here. I think just having updates would make more sense. But you tell me what you guys think. Again, if you guys are already solar customers and you're just doing this to try to help yourself or you're a real estate agent, let me know, because I can help you lay out all of the old bills, tell you what the rate plans were, what they are today, why this home makes more sense to sell with solar. A full disclaimer, solar can add value to your house. A lot of it. It can also deter people from going and buying your house. And I'll explain what that means in a second. But the third thing, and what's actually number one, is interest rates are what's moving the market right now. If interest rates are 8% and up, which they're about to be, we're like 7.5 right now. People are focused on that. So seller concessions or buyer concessions in this case would be kind of the main thing people are looking at. They're not like, oh, it has solar up on the roof. However, if you're like, hey, this house comes with a very, very low power bill, it's locked in with net energy metering, which is not available anywhere in the APS market anymore. It's a credit for credit balance. Here's what the bills would have been. Here's what they are. This house is locked in solar. That grandfathering goes with you. It builds this kind of intrinsic value. So you're like, all right, cool. If I had this house and this house, same floor plan, same layout, same square footage, same everything, same 2-story, whatever, but this one has a locked-in rate and this one has a ever-rising rate, I want that one. So it's just like, which one would you choose if you're in a bidding war? People are going to be more drawn to your house because of that factor, right? They're not going to be turned off by it. And then you can get into the debate, well, the solar's this, the solar's that. The power company is the exact same thing. It's this thing that's always changing, never not going up type situation. And the average is about 5 point something% a year is what APS, for example, goes up in. But I digress. That's one of the things. So it's very similar to like having a pool, right? If I don't want a pool, which I don't like pools, I do not like them. The maintenance is expensive. The cleaning is part of the maintenance is expensive. The water is expensive. There's always a leak. I can never make it not green, and that's my favorite color, and it still doesn't work out for me. I'm not going to buy a house with a pool. I'm not going to come to your house and look at it with a pool. And then that's the other problem is real estate agents like, well, you said you wanted a 2-3 or a 3-2. You said you wanted a, well, here's all the houses that are 3-bed, 2-bath. Whoa. Like, do more discovery, agent. If your guy, do you like green energy? No, man, I hate solar. I'm not going to show you solar homes. And the seller of that solar home will never know because you'll get people like me who have a large pool of buyers who are like, what's important to you? And they're like, I want cost effectiveness. I have a great bank. I have a great mortgage lined up. I'm pre-qualified. So my next thing is, how do I save money on my power bill? My next thing is, how walkable is it to the light rail? How walkable is it to my new job? How can I save money? How can I do an eco footprint? Dude, do I have nothing but great houses for you with solar? Oh, great. Let's take a look at them. Yeah, this one has net metering. This one doesn't. This one has a locked-in rate. This one doesn't. This one has a buyback. This one doesn't. That's the house that I want. Great. That was easy. Not, oh, man, it has solar. That's the thing. Like, don't show your do discovery agents. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. But if it makes sense for you guys, awesome. I hope this video worked out for you. I know it's a little long, but that's okay. We want to give you as much information as possible. We want to make sure you guys are well-versed, well-fed with education. But there's been a lot of things changing in the market, and we got to keep up with that change in the market. So here we are all over again, and we'll probably do it again next month. But again, Jordan Tackman, your friend in real estate and in solar. I hope this helps.